Hello there, and you're very welcome to Croke Park, where we're witnessing Galway, the All-Ireland champions for 2025, getting their photos taken with the O'Duffy Cup. Just beneath us here, Ashley Maher of Dublin Camogie. How are you? What have we just witnessed today?
Yeah, I think we've witnessed a great spectacle. Exactly the game that Camogie needed, I think, to be honest, in this championship, and probably for the last couple of years. This is the game that we've wanted to put out on our final stage on the kind of biggest day of the year when we have the most amount of eyes on our sport, and what a game it was. Absolutely end-to-end stuff. Galway probably took an early control we maybe didn't expect to see them have, and they held on to it the whole way through. Just when we thought they might coast home at the end, just got that burst of excitement of that late goal from Cork to put the whole thing back in the melting pot again.
Orla Cahalan takes that ball. It was Thompson's long ball in, wasn't it? And she spins her marker and buries it. Just as the clock goes red, we get 4 minutes of injury time. It brought the game level at 1:13 apiece, with Galway having been ahead for most of the previous 45 minutes. But Galway didn't crumble. And they get a free over on the Cusack stand sideline, and Carrie Dolan, as she had done throughout the game, the captain stood over and delivered.
Yeah, look, we all know Carrie Dolan was an unbelievable free taker. There's very few frees that you wouldn't back her on, but that was, as you say, it was a particularly challenging free. Like that hard swirling wind in Croke Park, she was right the way over on the far sideline. We were 3 minutes into the 4 minutes of injury time at that point, and she was at least 55 yards out, so a really difficult free to execute on at the best of times, never mind when you're doing it potentially to win an All-Ireland final, and she was as cool as anything on the execution, and she deserves all credit for that.
Calling a spade, and it might sound harsh, but Cork would have been stealing it if they had managed to even force extra time in a sense. Now, obviously sport doesn't work that way. You've got to finish a game off, but from the word get-go, Galway set the tone. They hit tackles, they pushed hard, they harried. They were 5 ahead at half-time. I think Cork got it back to 3 maybe at one point in the second half. They had an extra player, Galway, as well, for most of that second half after Hannah Looney's red card that we'll come back to. But Galway just set the tone from the very start of the game.
Yeah, they did, absolutely, and they did not give Cork a sniff of it. And to be honest, it was probably credit to Cork's maturity and experience. You know, we said with Ash Thompson on that long free, her awareness of that space inside. One of the kind of criticisms that I had of Cork going into the last 10 minutes was they'd taken off their entire starting full forward line, who were debatably one of their strongest lines on the pitch. Three girls we spent a lot of time talking about. Between Amy O'Connor, Sorka McCartan and Katrina Mackey, all three of them had come off, and I was kind of going, who's Ash going to hit with this? And to be fair to Orla Cahalan, even though she's younger than a lot of the others, she had that awareness to get in front of goal, get in one-on-one, look for the ball outside her, and a brilliant long-range ball in from Ash into the space, and just let her turn and be clinical with the finish.
To give Cork credit, they never panicked. Like Laura Hayes was brilliant in that second half. Hit a huge point to kind of keep it alive. Thompson had a couple of real moments of leadership throughout. But when I say they never panicked, they never properly got into their flow either, really, did they? Even the penalty that Amy O'Connor won off Aoife Donoghue was so brilliant in that first half. She was everywhere. It was missed by Mackey. They just never really got going.
Yeah, they didn't. I think, that trademark clinical approach from Cork of just, next person off the shoulder, get the strike, get the point, keep the scoreboard ticking over, just didn't happen for them. It seemed like things were just breaking down for them. The passes weren't coming, or, we mentioned earlier on a couple of points that you'd expect them to deliver on were just dropping short. And a large credit there to Galway for, the massive pressure they were managing to put on them. But there was a lot of physicality, there was a lot of hard hits out there today. I mentioned to you earlier, I'd say Cork feel a little bit aggrieved, not with the way that match was reffed today, in the sense that there was anything wrong with how Justin Heffernan reffed it. It was open, it was free flowing, there was big hits, and that's what we want to see in Camogie. But very often we only see that when we reach the All-Ireland final.
Why is that?
Refs throughout the championship are using that rule, which is subjective at the best. The charge rule is subjective, the tackle rule is subjective, and different refs implement it in a different way, and some refs don't allow a huge amount of contact to go. So sometimes as a player you feel like throughout the championship you have to play in one way and you expect to get frees for certain things, and then you go out and you play in the All-Ireland final, and I think more often than not it's refed as an entirely different game. It's almost as if the refs are given an instruction to let the games flow when they get to All-Ireland final stage. And look, I could be wrong, but I felt looking at the Cork girls today, they probably were expecting frees for things they weren't getting them for, and maybe they were getting a little bit frustrated at things that they were not getting frees for, and like little dunts that were being allowed go. You know, we mentioned already the dunt that Carrie Dolan gave Hannah in the back that ended up in her kind of retaliating and getting that red card. And I think, you know, the hard work that Galway brought, the pressure that they put on Cork, and maybe a couple of those frees not going their way might have been what swung it.
Yeah, and Colin Murray's side, they did set the tone with those turnovers in both attack and defence. We mentioned Aoife Donoghue earlier. She gets the first score of the game. She gives away the penalty that gets missed. But maybe O'Connor was about to bury it. She sets up a brilliant goal in the first half for Dillon. She scores another point. She wins a free that Dolan converts. There was tackles, there was turnovers. She was immense out there today, wasn't she?
Yeah, absolutely immense. And the intelligence of her play, for me, was the best part about her performance today. Like that goal where she's running through, like that easy pop pass off the shoulder. Well, it looks easy, and it, you know, it looks like she's just run through and given a pass, and then it's the person that finishes that deserves all the credit. And while they absolutely deserve credit, you have to look at Aoife's run. She completely takes Laura Tracy out of it. Laura Tracy, a huge back for Cork, a very, very good six, someone who'll time that run perfectly and get in your way as much as possible. And Aoife just flawlessly managed to let her come, and at the very last second gives the hand pass inside, perfectly weighted, perfectly timed. Player running onto it doesn't have to break stride at all, and you know, she's taken all the hard work out of it for the people around her through the work that she's doing and the opportunities she's given them. Yeah,
there's still a cluster of Cork stars sitting on the field here. They've had plenty of success, but again, that 3 in a row has eluded Cork Camogie. 73 over 50 years ago was the last time they achieved it, despite all the success. Galway have just won their 5th ever, and all 5 have come in the last 30 years. 96, 13, 19, 21, and now 2025. But you can probably see Laura Tracy there, right? Is there a couple others?
Yeah, absolutely. Laura Tracy in the middle there, and you'd wonder, like, and you know, we've said obviously with having the opportunity to win 3 in a row on several different occasions probably says a lot about the success and the dominance that Cork have had. But we're looking at the likes of Laura Tracy still sitting out there in the middle of the pitch today. You know, Ash Thompson would be another one that comes to mind. Even Katrina Pamela Mackey. Like, these are girls who've given huge service to Cork over the last number of years. You know, have won at the highest level on multiple occasions, and you'd wonder how many more opportunities we're going to have to see them. Hopefully today isn't the last day. Well, as a neutral, hopefully today isn't the last day that they wear a Cork jersey. I might answer differently when I'm back in pre-season for Dublin, but sure. These are huge players who deserve massive credit for what they've done, and today will hurt, no doubt.
The players have just done their lap with the O'Duffy Cup, and they've gone over to a strong cohort of Galway fans over in the Cusack stand. A lot of young fans here today. I thought it was brilliant earlier on. We saw all the under-14 champions from around the country getting around and a parade around the field. It was really cool. There seemed to be a representative from every county. There was 28,000, just shy of 29,000 here, very similar to last year. We know Camogie this year, a lot of the discourse has been off the field, and probably like that in recent seasons. But as you said, we got a final on the field that the sport needed. What does Galway winning do for the sport, and can it propel us forward? Like, we saw the intermediate final. We saw Offaly and Kerry in a final. Kerry, their first intermediate final, Offaly getting the job done, but maybe the B teams not being in it from the stronger counties might bring others along. Galway winning, what does that do for the contenders, Aisling, around the country?
Yeah, I think that, you know, it's a fantastic result for the neutrals insofar as Cork win, and you maybe play into that narrative a bit of, well, oh, that was always going to happen and it's predictable and it's this, that and the other. So I think it's a great result, obviously for Galway, but it's a great result for Camogie in general. Obviously everybody loves cheering for an underdog and seeing an underdog come true. But I think what's more important than the team that won it today is the manner in which it was won. You know, the final that we got, pulsating final, end-to-end stuff, cracking goals from both sides, and a game that literally wasn't over until the final whistle, as well as multiple incredible individual performances from players on both teams, to be fair. So I think that, you know, that's what we want to be showcasing, that's what we want to see. Obviously 28,000 in today, we mentioned several occasions, like a really energetic crowd, a really vocal crowd. There was one stage there when Justin Heffernan was repeatedly blowing his whistle in the middle of the park, and I don't think any of the players could hear him. They kept playing for 60 seconds afterwards. So a brilliant crowd to have in, but we need to be more ambitious than being shy at 30,000. You know, it was only last year that Camogie came out and said that their aim was to have 50,000 at finals by 2026, and we haven't heard a huge amount to talk about that since, probably because we haven't hit 30 last year or again this year. So they need to have a look at what they're doing in terms of getting people in, you know, you want people in watching these games and seeing these matches, but you can't just turn around and try and promote it the week of the final. It needs to be a year-long thing. It needs to be a championship-long thing, and you need the girls in those counties to be invested in the counties they're watching and in the players they're watching. So we need that accessibility and that insight and that promotion throughout championship.
Yeah, and I think, look, there's a hope that we might get a bit of insight into the All-Ireland champions Galway this year. There's a little bit of work going on in the background. The players, right? The players are the strongest PR vehicle for our sports. Kieran McGeeney always says it. They're the best example. They're the heroes to the kids in the field. Look at all the fans that are going nuts with the Galway players around them. There's some exceptional athletes out there in the field for both sides today. They're the ones that will propel the game forward. And I know you're still a player. Like you've assumed a huge leadership role, be it with the GPA, be it with Dublin. The Scorts debate earlier this year, you had to step into a really important position there too. That's tough when you're a player to have to do that, but I think the Camogie players right now do need to lead this as well. They do need to drive it on.
Yeah, I think so, and I think that, you know, players will take those opportunities when they're given to them. We need, you know, more engagement opportunities with those players. Obviously the GPA have been great, not just for me, but for loads of players, in terms of like helping players if they need support, if they need experience, if they need practice when you're talking to media, you're going out doing these kind of things. So there is facilities there for players. It's about creating the opportunities, and you know, businesses can play a huge role in this as well in terms of like sponsorship and PR and access to players. And like you said, that's what the kids love. We see it with the WSL over in England, and you know, the likes of Katie McCabe propelling the sport on through the access you get to her. Like, you'd love to see things now over the next few weeks where Camogie make sure that there's insights with the players we've spoken about today, the Aoife Donohues, the Carrie Dolans, the girls who have played a pivotal role in that match, and whose names will be fresh in people's minds across the country. You want to see interviews done with them. You know, you want to see their insight into the game, their analysis of the game. You want to see them out with the trophy, which no doubt they will be, down to local clubs and that kind of thing. And getting to know those players is what will pull in a bigger audience, I think.
I just spotted Carrie Dolan going over to a cluster of her clubmates, I believe. There's a massive Clarenbridge GAA Camogie club sign there, and she's giving hugs to a lot of the members. There must be some of her younger teammates in the club there in Clarenbridge. Carrie Dolan is the Galway captain. She's led them over the line with that late free 7 points. They had a number of key performers, but it was a team performance really. Like yourself and Rachel Sheehan were talking about what's Colin Murray going to have up his sleeve, but really collectively Galway produced on the biggest day today.
Yeah, I think so, and I think, you know, the psychology of that was so important for Cahill, getting those players into the right mindset, getting that belief, you know, to be instilled within them, because especially at the end when they conceded that goal late on, if there's any doubt there, you know, something like that can shatter a team very quickly. So to be fair to him, he'd obviously done a lot of work, and to be fair to the girls, they'd obviously done a lot of work in making sure they felt confident and mentally resilient going into this, and that they were ready to make sure that they took the opportunities that they got from early on. You know, even the belief around the penalty and the reaction that they had off that, being able to go up and get the next score after it is huge. So I think that, you know, we probably were looking at the Galway team today and looking at the intensity and pace that was set throughout, and I don't think you could pinpoint one player. Anytime I seem to say throughout the game, oh, such and such is having a quiet enough game, she'd pop up and get the next score, get a big tackler with a free. So, you know, there's never going to be an All-Ireland final won by a single player, and I guess Galway showed that today.
They were a team on a mission today, and they achieved their goal. They won the All-Ireland. As I said, the 5th in their history. A huge achievement for a side who were beaten by Cork in last year's All-Ireland final. They were hammered by Cork in this year's league final. You know, they were up against it today. They were underdogs, written off. Sometimes that can be a nice way to come into an All-Ireland final. Ashley Maher, thanks for your time today on Camogie All-Ireland final day. Triple headers, Laois, Offaly and Galway are the champions. Very best of luck in your own club campaign. I heard you saying there's a couple of weeks until you're out in action, but best of luck with that, and thanks for your help today on Off the Ball.
Cheers, Tommy. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.